हेलो माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, कैसे हैं आप लोग। उम्मीद करती हूँ आप सब अच्छे होंगे। चैप्टर नंबर 39, थ्री एक्ट्स ऑफ स्टूपिडिटी बाय रूडी स्टीनर, फ्रॉम द बुक थीफ, रिटन बाय मार्कस ज़्यूज़ैक. Rudy Steiner, pure genius. He stole the biggest potato from Memo's, the local grocer, taking on Franz Deutscher on Minucci Street, skipping the Hitler Youth meetings altogether. The problem with Rudy's first act was greed. It was a typically dreary afternoon in mid November 1941. Earlier, he did woven through the women with their coupons quite brilliantly, almost, dare I say it, with a touch of criminal genius. He nearly went completely unnoticed. Inconspicuous as he was, however, he managed to take hold of the big potato of the lot, the very same one that several people in the queue had been watching. They all looked on as a 13-year-old fist rose up and grabbed it, a chore of heavy set Helgas pointing him out, and Thomas Mamer came storming towards the dirty fruit. Mean Daffel, he said, my earth apples. The potato was still in Rudy's hand. He couldn't hold in it just the one, and the woman gathered around him like a troop of wrestlers. Some fast talking was required. Some fast talking was required. My family, Rudy explained. A convenient stream of clear fluid began to trickle from his nose. He made a point of not wiping it away. We are all starving. My sister needed a new coat. The last one was stolen. Mamer was no fool. Still holding Rudy by the collar, he said, and you plan to dress her with a potato? No, sir. He looked diagonally into the one eye he could see of his captor. Mamer was a barrel of a man with two small bullet holes to look out of. His teeth were like a football crowd crammed in. We traded all our points for the coat 3 weeks ago, and now we have nothing to eat. The grocer held radio in one hand and the potato in the other. He called out the dreaded word to his wife, Polizzi. No, Rudy begged, please. He would tell Leisure later on that he was not the slightest bit afraid. But his heart was certainly bursting at that moment. I am sure, not the police. Please, not the police. Police. Memo remained unmoved as the boy wriggled and fought with the air. Also in the queue that afternoon was a teacher, her link. He was in the percentage of teachers at his school who were not priests or nuns. Rudy found him and accosted him in the eyes. Hurling. This was his last chance. Hurling, please, tell him how poor I am. The grocer looked with inquiring eyes at the teacher. Hurling stepped forward and said, yes, her memo. This boy is poor. He is from Hemel Street. The crowd of a predominantly women conferred at that point, knowing that Hemel Street was not exactly the epitome of idyllic mulching living. It was well known as a relatively poor neighborhood. It was 8 brothers and sisters. 8. Rudy had to hold back a smile. Though he wasn't in the clear yet, at least he had the teacher lying now. He did somehow manage to add 3 more children to the Steiner family. Often he comes to school without breakfast, and the crowd of women was conferring again. It was like a coat of paint on the situation, adding a little extra potency and atmosphere. So that means he should be allowed to steal my potatoes. The biggest one of the women ejaculated. Keep quiet, Frau Metzing. Mema warned her, and she quickly settled down. At first, all attention was on Rudy and the scurf of his neck. It then moved back and forth from the boy to the potato to Mema, from best looking to worst. Exactly what made the grocer decide in Rudy's favor would forever be unanswered. Was it the pathetic nature of the boy, the dignity of hurling, the annoyance of Frau Metzing? Whatever it was, Mamer dropped the potato back on the pile and dragged Rudy from his premises. He gave him a good push with his right boot and said, don't come back. From outside, Rudy looked on as Mimur reached the counter to serve his next customer with food and sarcasm. I wonder which potato you are going to ask for, he said, keeping one eye open for the boy. For Rudy, it was yet another failure. The second act of stupidity was equally dangerous, but for different reasons. Rudy would finish his particular altercation with a black eye, cracked ribs, and a haircut. Again, at the Hitler Youth meetings, Tommy Muller was having his problems, and Franz Deutscher was just waiting for Rudy to step in. It didn't take long. Rudy and Tommy were given another comprehensive drill session while the others went inside to learn tactics. As they ran in the cold, they could see the warm heads and shoulders through the windows. Even when they joined the rest of the group, the drills weren't quite finished. As Rudy slammed into the corner and flickered mud from his sleeve at the window, Franz fired him the Hitler Youth's favorite question. When was our Führer Adolf Hitler born? Rudy looked up. Sorry, the question was repeated, and the very stupid Rudy Steiner, who knew all too well that it was April 20, 1889, answered with the birth of Christ. He even threw in Bethlehem as an added piece of information. Franz smeared his hands together, a very bad sign. He walked over to Rudy and ordered him back outside for some more laps of the field. Rudy ran them alone, and after every lap he was asked again the date of Führer's birthday. He did 7 laps before he got it right. The major trouble occurred a few days after the meeting. On Unity Street, Rudy noticed Deutscher walking along the footpath with some friends and felt the need to throw a rock at him. You might well ask just what the hell he was thinking. The answer is probably nothing at all. He did probably say that he was exercising his God-given right to stupidity. Either that or whether the very sight of Franz Deutscher gave him the urge to destroy himself. The rock hit its mark on the spine, though not as hard as Rudy might have hoped. Franz Deutscher spun round and looked happy to find him standing there with little Tommy and Tommy's little sister Christina. Let's run, Liesel urged him, but Rudy didn't move. We are not at Hitler Youth now, he informed her. The older boys had already arrived. Liesel remained next to her friend, as they did the twitching Tommy and the delicate Christina. Mr. Steiner, Franz declared, before picking him up and throwing him to the pavement. When Rudy stood up, it only served to infuriate Deutscher even more. He brought him to the ground for a second time, falling him down with a knee to the rib cage. Again, Rudy stood up, and the group of older boys laughed now at their friend. This was not the best news for Rudy. Can't you make him feel it? The tallest of them said. His eyes were as blue and cold as the sky, and the words were all the incentive Franz needed. He was determined that Rudy would hit the ground and stay there. A larger crowd made its way around them as Rudy swung at Franz Deutscher's stomach, missing him completely. Simultaneously, he felt the burning sensation of a fist on his left eye socket. It arrived with sparks, and he was on the ground before he even realized. He was punched again in the same place, and he could feel the bruise turn yellow and blue and black all at once. 3 layers of exhilarating pain. The developing crowd gathered, leered to see if Rudy might get up again. He didn't. This time he remained on the cold, wet ground, feeling it rise through his clothes and spread itself out. The sparks were still in his eyes, and he didn't notice until it was too late that Franz now stood above him with a brand new pocket knife, about to crouch down and cut him. No, Liesel protested, but the tall one held her back. In her ear, his words were deep and old. Don't worry, he assured her, he won't do it. He doesn't have the guts. He was wrong. Franz moved into a kneeling position as he leaned closer to the Rudy and whispered, when was our Führer born? Each word was carefully articulated and fed into his ear. Come on, Rudy, when was he born? You can tell me. Everything's fine, don't be afraid. And Rudy, how did he reply? Did he respond prudently, or did he allow his stupidity to sink himself deeper into the mire? He looked happily into the pale blue eyes of Franz Duce and answered, Easter Monday. Within a few seconds, the knife was applied to his hair. It was haircut number 2 in this section of Leisure's life. The hair of a Jew was cut with rusty scissors. Her best friend was taken to with a gleaming knife. She knew nobody who actually paid for a haircut. As for Rudy, so far this year he did swallowed mud, bathed himself in fertilizer, been slapped around by a developing criminal, and was now receiving something at least nearing the icing on the cake. Public humiliation on Munich Street. For the most part, his French was slid away freely, but with each stroke there were always a few hairs that held on for dear life and were pulled out completely. As each one was plucked, Rudy winced, his black eye. Rudy whizzed, his black eye throbbing in the process and his ribs flashing in pain. April the 20th, 1889. Franz lectured him, and when he led his cohorts away, the audience dispersed, leaving only Leisure, Tommy, and Christina with their friend. Rudy lay quietly on the ground in the rising damp, which leaves us only with stupid act number 3, skipping the Hitler Youth meetings. He didn't stop going straight away purely to show Deutsche that he wasn't afraid of him. But after another few weeks, Rudy ceased his involvement altogether. Dressed proudly in his uniform, he exited Himmel Street and kept walking his loyal subject Tommy by his side. Instead of attending the Hitler Youth, they walked out of town and along the Amper, skipping stones, having enormous rocks into the water, and generally getting up to no good. He made sure to get the uniform dirty enough to fool his mother. At least until the first letter arrived. That was when he heard the dreaded call from the kitchen. First, his parents threatened him. He didn't attend. They begged him to go. He refused. Eventually, it was the opportunity to join a different division that swayed Rudy in the right direction. This was fortunate because if he didn't show his face soon, the Steiners would be fined for his non-attendance. His older brother Kurt inquired as to whether Rudy might join the Flieger division, which specialized in the teaching of aircraft and flying. Mostly they built model aeroplanes, and there was no Franz Deutsche. Rudy accepted, and Tommy also joined. It was the one time in his life that his idiotic behavior delivered beneficial results. In this new division, whenever he was asked the famous for her question, Rudy would smile and answer April 20, 1889. And then to Tommy, he did whisper a different date, like Beethoven's birthday or Mozart's or Strauss. They did been learning about composers in his school, where, despite his obvious stupidity, Rudy excelled. यहाँ पे होता है हमारा चैप्टर नंबर 39 फिनिश. कल मिलेंगे हम, नेक्स्ट वीडियो में मिलेंगे हम विद चैप्टर नंबर 40, द फ्लोटिंग बुक पार्ट 2 फ्रॉम द बुक थीफ रिटन बाय मार्कस ज़्यूज़ैक. मेरे चैनल को आप लोग लाइक, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब ज़रूर से कीजिएगा, और मैं इसमें के बाद नेक्स्ट बुक कौन सी रीड करूं मुझे कमेंट्स में बताइए. थैंक यू वेरी मच. बाय फॉर नाउ फ्रेंड्स. थैंक यू एंड थैंक यू वेरी मच. बाय.